Ladies and gentlemen, we'll get started here in just a minute. If you're not on the agenda but you're here to make a comment, you need to sign up in the public comment sheet up here at the lectern if you need to. Madam Manager, I have 7 o'clock. Okay.
6 o'clock, I think, Bob.
Do what?
It's 6.
It's
6 o'clock in the mountains.
You're always nitpicking. Okay, he's right. It is 6 o'clock. Old habits of all these years hard to break. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'll call the April the 2nd, 2018 Town Council meeting to order. And the first item of business is a Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Mayor Barbara McRae.
Let us pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Miss Brittany, are you warm there? It's really getting warm up here. Justin, you may have to make another adjustment here in a few minutes. Okay. All right. The next item is the approval of the March 2nd, March 3rd, and March 5th Town Board minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to look those over? Yep. If not, if so, I will entertain a motion to approve as presented.
Make that motion.
All right. Is that a second?
A second.
All in favor? Okay. And tonight, the adoption of the April the 2nd Town Board agenda. Mr. McMahon, did you wanted to withdraw that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a update, if we may, on Hillcrest Avenue, and if the board will approve it, I'd like to make that item K on the agenda. It will be, and Mr. Setzer, I think, has a couple of photographs to add on that. Is that correct? You think?
Yeah, I'm not.
Okay, so we'll just have a short discussion of that and with some photos. Okay, do I hear a motion to? Oh, you got something?
Yeah. Sorry. I just talked to a couple of the West End merchants, and they're wanting to sponsor that Read to Me. I don't know if we're in a position to vote for it in Memorial Park, but I'd like to add that to the agenda because I know that it's waiting on approval to get sponsorships.
And where is this?
The Read to Me program that was presented last meeting. It's an educational tool for children. They wanted to put the story walk in Memorial Park.
I think we were needing to look to someone to tell us where they wanted to put them.
We did. Myself and our land use administrator reached out to Diane Cotton, I believe, and she's going to get back with us. But in the meantime, we did go down there and look at areas, and I think there's more than room at Memorial Park if we wanted to go ahead. If it's a funding issue, I think there would be room for a story walk.
And the funding issue would come from?
Mr. Culpepper was...
Yeah, the West End merchants they're the ones that are requesting it, actually. They're wanting to sponsor a walk down there for the kids.
That's nice.
Yeah, and I'd like to see us vote on it either up or down, and that way they can go on about their business, and Read to Me can go on about their business as well.
And there's no cost to the town, correct?
There's no cost to the town, yeah, and I've got faith in Summer and Justin to find a location if it's suitable.
Yeah, I think we talked about that was all the thing we were waiting on was the location on it, seeing where we could put it. All right, do you want that to be L?
That's fine, yeah. That's
okay, added to it will be L, all right. Okay, anybody else have anything they want to add, delete from the agenda for tonight? If not, I'll entertain a motion for the two changes that we made, K and L.
Make the motion we accept the agenda as modified.
Okay, so second. Okay, all in favor? Okay. All right. Madam Manager, the next is a public hearing at 6:05 for the wireless telecommunications ordinance. So I'll declare the public hearing open. Mr. Setzer and Mr. Henning will present this item. And is there anyone signed up to speak to the wireless telecommunications ordinance? Okay. Mr. Setzer, sure, sir.
Good evening, Board and Mayor.
For the past couple of months, the town planning board has been reviewing our chapter 154, our wireless telecommunications facilities ordinance. They've been reviewing it with the intention of adding some definitions and some text to the ordinance for small cell wireless facilities. And they've been reviewing it, and in your packet you should see the changes to that ordinance that myself and the town attorney drafted, modeled after a new general statute that was adopted this past summer, House Bill 310. And the whole reason for adding this is with this new small cell technology where you can have since a small cell tower on top of a utility pole in the right-of-ways in town, the utility or the telecommunications companies they pretty much got their own free range of, can do what they want if we don't have any definitions or regulations or rules in place. And even once we're very limited what we can do. Pretty much our only any area that we can even have the option to even deny anything on appearance, or if it impedes like sidewalk traffic, areas of that. So that's what we've been working on for the past couple of months at the planning board, and that's what we've got for you tonight in the packet. Planning board has went through it, has made some minor changes from what was originally drafted, and has sent it back with recommendation of approval. If you got some more detailed questions, me and Mr. Henning can get more detailed on any of the definitions of the text.
Okay. Anyone else wants to speak to these wireless telecommunications ordinance? Okay. Thank you, sir. Nobody else?
Yeah, I just want to add.
Yes, ma'am.
So this basically is based on the state ordinance, or a model ordinance by the state.
We have gone as expansively as we can. It's kind of what the state statute now says, which again, this is the onward march of the expansion of authority of wireless companies to place things where they want to. It used to be we could have a special use process that had them coming before this board and tell us where it's going to go and what it's going to look like and how you're going to power it and who all it's going to serve. That's already been restricted quite a bit, and now this could really be a substantial restriction if we don't get. So we kind of have to say right now what all of our standards are for these. So that's what this is intended to do.
Let me ask you one question. Have they determined yet whether the towns will be able to charge any franchise fees for this, or where it's going to go? Is it going to be regulated by the Utilities Commission? Will it be considered a utility? Do we know that yet? There
are not franchise fees available to the town to charge. We have a very limited amount we can charge on a per application basis. Justin, you remember exactly what the number is? $50 per.
$50 per unit up to a max of 12. So that if somebody wanted to put in 50 of them, we only can charge for $50 for 12. And then after that,
you can break them up into 12 unit segments. So they'd have to do a different application for each of those. So yeah, it limits. I mean, contrast that with a standard monopole now, 150 feet or whatever, we charge $5,000. And that probably will get restricted further at some point.
I have a question too. I attended one of the broadband committee meetings in Silva where they were talking about this, and one of the guys in Silva mentioned that one of the problems he's having expanding his into surrounding counties is that counties and municipalities charge an excessive fee to do that, and it's kind of making it hard for broadband to scatter about the region. I think we all want broadband. Are we worried at all that this is going to inhibit the growth of broadband?
Well, this isn't really in the growth of broadband. This is more just for like cell phones.
Okay.
4G, 5G, and so on. These have a very small range. Like one antenna probably has a 2,000 foot range. So you have to. It's very minimal line of sight. That's why you can start seeing these. You can see them on like maybe like every other telephone pole. And some of the equipment that would be required can be the size of, a refrigerator box sitting on the ground beside it, on each pole. So,
And we're not prohibiting them, we're just trying to regulate what they're going to look like and where they're going to be.
We're not prohibiting, just regulating the appearance, kind of make it blend in is all. That's what the goal is we're trying to achieve here.
And do we have something in the ordinance that we'll be voting on tonight to look at the appearance of how this will be?
Yeah, there's a text
It'll look good.
so that it blend in with the surrounding area and the design of the poles.
Okay.
Planning board gave a lot of discussion on our downtown Main Street. They were really concerned of our decorative light poles. And you could have equipment on top of it, so it didn't blend in. The black poles, and somebody come in and put something that's white antennas on top, and it just changed the appearance of our downtown. So their discussion was going that way.
So if we pass this ordinance, it will not be a blanket in Franklin. It'll be some areas they'll be permitted and other areas they won't be
It would
permitted.
be permitted everywhere. It would just have to meet appearance is the only requirements that we can govern by that general statute.
So there is a potential of negative appearance downtown.
If not passed, you could simply see negative appearances in downtown. There would be no rules for them to go by. They could just do what.
It's essentially like the eligible facilities request that give us a 30-day shot clock when they give us a completed application. We're going to say yes or no within 30 days. In fact, it's one of those that doesn't get to come back here. So it's up to your land use administrator to see if it meets that. And we're setting out, what standards it's got to meet right now. So this is, what we've done is to look at what other municipalities are doing across the state. And this is in line with those. I don't think that a wireless company would find this any more restrictive than they would find in any other average municipality in the state of North Carolina.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
given that we had no comments, we probably ought to close the public hearing and get back in.
Okay,
So that
we can do that. It's my mistake, yeah. Okay, no further comments with the public hearing. I'll declare it closed. All right, and
so the downside is, if we don't do anything, we don't have control over.
yeah, we've got public session next, so then we'll come back to this, if that's okay. Let's do it that way. All right, public session. We have a number of people signed up, and round rules. Remember, you're limited to 5 minutes, and I do time you up here. So, Ms. Shields, Heather Shields, welcome.
I came for a couple of reasons tonight, but the main one, the reason I came up here is that I wanted to thank this board and the town offices, the people that work for the town, for your persistence in dealing with the situation on Hillcrest Avenue. Today was the first day of demolition, and I was outside most of the day, as you can tell by my sunburn. And there were lots of people that stopped by and expressed their thankfulness that something has finally been done. And that speaks to this board's willingness to support the town employees in making that happen. It speaks to Justin's persistence. And I just want to say thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you, yes.
I know that it's been a rough time over there on Hillcrest. All right, Mr. Bill Krepek.
First, I'd like to say good evening to the mayor and the board members. I appreciate you giving us a little time here. Jimbo is going to be here, but is caught up on some business out of town, so I'm taking his place. And I'm reading from something that he wrote. It says, I'm standing before you as the Chief Marketing Officer at Jamaica Incorporated. For those of you that are unaware, We are an event planning business in the process of obtaining a 501(c) status as a community building organization. We're currently involved in a joint venture with many longtime business owners, residents, and voters within the town of Franklin, and would like to put an outdoor show on that involves music, craft beer, and fun called Springtopia. We have invested years of time and effort into getting events like this off the ground in Franklin, and we want to thank you very much for getting the issue of Stewart Street on the agenda tonight. Please take your time and please take this seriously while discussing some key issues surrounding the event, our involvement as a business and the community as a whole. We would like to ask the mayor and the board to please answer just a couple of questions if possible throughout the night. May not be able to answer them right now. But one of our questions is, what is the stance on the designation of Stewart Street as it relates to either public or private? And if the town agrees that the Stewart Street is a public road and does not allow public alcohol consumption, will the town work with us to come up with an emergency alcohol event permit or something of that nature that would allow this event to take place? We would also be providing whatever list the city would require of us, which we've talked about, off-duty police department being there for security, cleanup, and even post-mortem meetings afterwards. We could have done better to make the next event even more successful. So that is all we have. Jim of the City wants to let y'all know he loves you, and we look forward to hearing what comes out tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Crownover, Sandra, welcome.
Well, you may not think so when we get done. We're now further along on Curtis Street and the rest of the started. This makes, I think, the 4th time I've been here. And they started on Friday night. I got maybe 2 hours sleep Friday night. Got less than that on Saturday night and Sunday night. Sunday morning they started selling drugs, bringing them up there. And a lady came up there in a brand new car that had been walking. And there was a black truck up there parked across the driveway. She couldn't go down there, and she backed up in the church parking lot and called him every foul name you could think of to move that car. And I personally picked the blinds up and watched them carry 2 bags of drugs down to that house. And I called Kathy Reed, and she said, "Did you call the cops?" And I said, "Why? They don't do anything if they show up." And I've had it up to here because I'm the closest. And if it's not gone on West Boulevard and behind me by the 15th, I'm going to start making calls that none of us will be happy. I'm going to make some phone calls that nobody's not going to be happy with. And as bad as I hate to have my picture taken, I will go to WLOS. If I have to drive over there and spend money for a motel room, I mean, it's going to be aired out. Because I get the most of the brunt of this stuff because I'm the closest. And I've had it. I don't like to beg and pay taxes. And I'm begging and paying taxes and I get nothing in return. And you promised me right under my carport that you would do what's best for the taxpayers, and you haven't done that. I voted for Mr. Culpepper because a friend of mine said he would be honest and do what within his heart was right. And I think he has. But I don't want him to join everybody just because somebody says yes, yes, yes. When it's not safe for the decent people in the town. And the parallel parking, I came up Monday because I had to write a letter. Finally got a printer for the house where they call me the loser renter. The one that's living below me is Daddy and his girlfriend moved up there. And I went up there to have the water changed in his name and got in a parallel parking place. And I thought I was in the first one, but there was one behind me and somebody got behind me in front of me and I couldn't get out. You can't even, I have to stand in front of my truck if there's a car coming up Town Hill to even open my door, or they'd knock me in my door halfway up the street. And all you had to do is just make those things a little bit lengthwise this way to make it parking place for those vehicles. And most of those trucks or vans is bigger than longer than my truck. And I didn't have that much rough and back. I couldn't move. I had to wait for somebody to come and move before I could get out of that parking spot. And that is, it's dumb, very dumb. And nobody could come and with me tonight.
Nobody did what, ma'am? I'm
And
sorry.
none of the neighbors would come tonight. They said that they have come and don't get any results.
Okay.
But I'm giving you one more shot to do something. If I have to do it, then I'm going to get your case.
That's fine. Thank you so much.
My name's mentioned in the press of Macon County Youth. I'm going to sue them because the press,
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
more truthful than the press.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, Mr. Counselor Jones. Mr. Jones, welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I brought my Bible with me.
But you still got 5 minutes.
Only 5 minutes. Well, you notice I left my notes. So I'm just going to talk straight from the Bible.
Okay.
First, I want to tell you how much the Franklin Cemetery Association, that's who I'm here for, appreciates the consideration that the town has given us in the past. And I'm here tonight to just bring you up to date a little bit on the condition of the cemetery and what's happened in the last 6 months, I guess. We've had a little reprieve. The grass doesn't grow during about 3.5 months of the winter, and so we haven't paid that $2,500 a month or more. Sometimes, if it has to be mowed 3 times in a month, it's $4,500. It's very expensive. But we have been able to edge by during the past 3 or 4 months. I think our last mowing was in November, so we've had December, January, and February. Then we had only 1 mowing in March, and it was just a pickup, just a little. Thank goodness things didn't grow much in March. We had a lot of good weather, good cold weather, that is. But I want to tell you that the picture for the Franklin Cemetery Association does not look any better for the upcoming year. We don't have any buildup now of funds. The perpetual care funds are invested, but we only get about 3.5% on those, and it takes all of that just to get by the ordinary expenses. At the most, we're going to have about $7,000 in income from the perpetual care fund. We are selling some grave sites now, not many, but some, and we have been asked on almost every occasion, well, if you don't mow the cemetery, can we mow our own space? And I'll tell you that we have told them, yes, you can. Our rules have always been in the past that the purpose of the Cemetery Association to keep the cemetery looking nice but uniform, and to have somebody fertilize his gravesite over here and somebody over here just let his grow up and not cut it. It is an awful sight, and we've always been proud of our cemetery, and we want you to be proud of it. It is named the Franklin Cemetery Association, and you have incorporated into the town limits all of the gravesite areas with the cemetery, and we need help. What I would hope that you would be able to do is to, at the very least, give us, through your annual nonprofits contributions, at least $10,000 a year. If we can get $10,000 from the town and $10,000 from the county, with the $7,000, we can mow the cemetery. We will sell some lots. We're lucky to sell 2 lots. Now this is grave spaces, not a grave lot. Every now and then, a family wants to buy a 4-grave lot, and we certainly welcome that. But that's not what's happening generally. Is people who have had a loved one die, and they've had to have a place to bury them. I did want to...
Your 5 minutes up. Mr. Shope, you want to give some time to Mr. Jones, or come on up, both of you together?
I certainly will.
I'm going to start the clock again now.
Let me add this to what Councilor Jones says. We're, of course, nonprofit. We don't make any money. We're just, we're trustees of something that was handed down to us since 1922. It is a public cemetery. We've tried to keep it going, and it has kept going. In about 2007, when the last recession came, people began to realize that it costs a lot of money to bury your loved one. And I hate to say it, but they moved away from having a grave and a casket. They moved to cremation and spreading the ashes at Warrior Ball, or putting them in the river or whatever, taking them to the ocean. So these business models that were instituted when the cemetery was formed back in almost 100 years ago, of course they don't work now, and we've more or less inherited that. We don't want to shirk our responsibility, and I think we have been responsible. But I want it known that whoever's on the board, make no money. There's no stipend or anything else that's paid. We're just trying to look after what we've been entrusted to look after, and we do need help. We need help in a big way. We can handle it, but it's going to cost $20,000 to $30,000 a year to make it happen, or it's just going to fall into a state of disrepair. And I don't think anybody in the community wants that. I don't think anybody, well, we certainly don't want it. I don't know the feeling of the entire board, but I think at least some on the board are sympathetic to us. So bottom line is, we would like to be included in the traditional monies that the town bestows on the nonprofits to help them out. That would be what we would be using the money for. We'd be using it for the upkeep of the Woodlawn Cemetery. The property is inside the city limits. We operate it, again, as I say, as a public burial grounds. If you have any questions, be glad to answer. Councilor Jones also has, he is the go-to person. He's been with it a long time. I've been on the board for probably 20 years, and be glad to entertain any questions or suggestions. We have been, I think, good stewards of the money, but the business plan's just not working now, and we need a little help.
Mr. Jones, there is a procedure that we follow very closely on the nonprofit funding pool. It usually comes about after we adopt the budget and we start looking at how much money is available for that pool. There is an application process, and we'd be glad for you to come at that time and get your packet of information and fill it out. Sure, yeah.
Certainly appreciate it.
Well, certainly, sir. We appreciate you gentlemen for coming tonight. Thank you. Mr. Jones, you've got another minute or two if you want it, sir. You got 2, yes, sir.
I wanted to take an opportunity to bring to the board's attention some minutes that were entered in the June 14th, 1990 minutes of the Franklin Cemetery Association. And at that time, I was the chairman of the board, and I received a letter from the town of Franklin dated June the 19th, 1989. And I stated for the board, that letter states that the streets of the Franklin Cemetery will be no longer maintained by the city as stated in the Powell bill, unless the streets were open to public use on a continuous basis or were made into a thoroughfare to residences and or businesses. The cemetery is open at all times. It's open to the public, and the public comes out. It's amazing how many walkers there are who come out to enjoy walking on the town roads in the cemetery. And we would like to also ask that you consider repairing some of those roads and that they've fallen into bad shape. I'm not going to bore you any longer. Thank you so much for giving us this time.
Gentlemen, thank y'all.
Thank you
for coming tonight, sir. Okay, I don't have anybody else signed up for the public session, public comment. So if you'll pass those to Mr. Talent. Okay, the first new business is the board action on the wireless telecommunications ordinance. Okay, board members, council members, do you have anything you want to discuss about that before we go to a vote?
I have a couple questions.
All right, sir.
Again, reflecting back on the meeting I went to, the regional broadband, where everybody submitted their studies. It was a kind of a big deal where they're trying to find out how to ways to get broadband here. And again, the guy in Silva mentioned that the cost of permitting for cell towers, especially for his small unit types that bounce wireless around, was excessive. I think he cited the county as being $4,500, something like that, for him to do what he needs to do. We've got a couple different fees in here. One's a $5,000 fee for a special use. One's a one-time fee that's going to be assessed at the time as per the fee schedule. So let's envision that scenario where, let's say Balsam West or WestNet, as they're going by now, let's say they wanted to start bouncing around wireless off of a few existing towers. They wanted to put some low-scale towers. What is the permit fee schedule going to look like for them?
Well, it depends on what type of tower they were going to build. If they were wanting to build something that would fall under small cell, then it would be $50 for a tower. If they're wanting to build something over 50 feet tall, or say 110 foot tall, then they fall under that $5,000 that Mr. Henning, the new facility. If they're going on an existing tower, like Cunningham Road, which is the one that I deal with a lot here, the one behind the Chevy dealership. If it's an existing tower and they're wanting to add equipment to it, that falls under the eligible facilities request, and that's $1,000. That's pretty much our three fee schedules. I've never had it living.
We do differentiate then. We're not just going to charge somebody $5,000 to build a 10-foot tower and try to get wireless.
And in fact, that's been part of the march of the deregulation that's happened. Every time, just about every year, every general session of the General Assembly, we come back with another bill that has limited how much we can charge or say what goes where and how it looks. So I think small cell, if that's what they're talking about, is another magnitude of, order of magnitude smaller in the amount that we can charge.
Because ultimately, we should welcome any and all ideas to help get better wireless internet to everybody in our community.
It isn't that trying to, hinder that. It's just trying to make sure that it looks nice when they put it in. They don't just put just whatever.
And that's what I shared with the planning board, and Justin and I both talked with them about is, when all this started, it was who gets a 150-foot tall tower in their backyard, and ain't nobody wanted that. And so, it was a whole lot more of a, we were trying to make sure we kept everything loud and really restrictive. It was much more restrictive. I think we do have to come to grips with, and we talked about this, every one of us has got a cell phone in our pocket right now that is on one of these networks. We're all using it. We're all part of it. It is here, and it is going to just get more and more integrated into everyday life and everywhere you go. So small cells is along those lines. I think what we have here is minimally restricted to, make sure that there isn't, because if you don't adopt restrictions now that have some standards about what things look like Justin said, you could potentially see every single kind of pole that's in this town have a 20-foot, maybe 10-foot tall, 50 feet sometimes, antenna on top of it that would stick out like a sore thumb. So I think we're trying to do our best to also work with that.
And if a good idea...
Excuse me just a minute. Mr. Frey has a question.
My question is, what if they wanted to put it on an existing building or like a church tower or something like that? Is that something we would have to permit if it's a private structure?
Yeah, it would, because it's still
visible.
You're turning that structure into a tower or a facility.
So it would still be the $50 fee in an application.
A small sale, if it meets the description of the definitions. If it was, a 50 foot on top of a building, somebody decided to put a 50-foot tower on top of the courthouse, then that could fall under a different one because it's, you still got the height of the building, and so, so it's all varies. You got to there's different factors to all of it.
It looks to me like that would be a better solution in downtown than a street pole.
I would think so too, but the way that the last law was written that we're now reacting to, if they came in with an application that said we want to put it on every one of your fancy looking light poles out here, you wouldn't be able to have any way to force them to do anything different. And so,
that's not good.
Yeah, this goes as far as we can to say that we prefer you to hide it, put it on a building, don't put it on our poles without matching the appearance of those.
Okay. All right, sir.
If a good idea does come down the pike, how hard is it to amend this to where we could approve something?
You mean something that doesn't fit the standards?
Yeah.
I think that my hope is, my conception of this is wireless companies are going to adjust. I mean, I think they're going to look into how, if every municipality in North Carolina adjusted to this by conforming and doing basically what we did, just asking for minimal shielding to make stuff blend in, they're going to get used to what kind of stealth technology is that it looks like these light poles out here, that sort of thing. So I think that,
I guess my question is, we got Elon Musk shooting satellites into space. They're going to shoot wireless down to everybody. And so technologies change fast.
Sure.
Are we able to react to that? Like, say, if I want to put something in my backyard, or on top of my house, I don't want to hinder future technologies from taking place. So I guess how difficult is it to amend it to extenuating circumstances?
Well, to answer the basic question there, amendment of this is like any land use ordinance amendment that requires us to give notice for you all to have a 30-day public notice before you consider it, and have a hearing like you just did. And then you can amend it. So it does also require a data planning first.
Okay.
So if there's, but I'm having a hard time picturing what will fall outside of, if it falls into the definition of small cell installation, you're going to have it covered now, and it's going to tell them what kind of stealth technology and stuff we're expecting to use to hide it.
Okay, any other questions from the council members? All right, there being none. Okay, I guess what we need is a motion to adopt the wireless telecommunications ordinance. Could I hear a motion to adopt?
I move we adopt.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay. All right, Mr. Setzer, we got that, sir. And check on the heat while you're back there. I'm about to have a revolt back here. Okay, Taste of Scotland street closing request. Madam Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. I did receive a request from the Taste of Scotland, and there will be a Taste of Scotland this year, and it'll be the annual Father's Day weekend, and they're requesting to close Main Street on Saturday, June the 16th from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then they're also requesting to have Iowa Street and Phillips Street closed on Friday, June the 15th, starting at 5:30 p.m. until 6 p.m. the following day. This is a normal request that we've done for them before.
So we will have a Taste of Scotland this year, it looks like. Okay, any discussion from the board? All right, I'll entertain a motion for the street closing request.
Motion.
Ms. McMahon, is that second? Okay, any discussion further? All in favor? Okay. Law Enforcement Memorial Day street closing request. Madam Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. We also received a request from the Steve Mason, who's a representative of the annual Law Enforcement Memorial Day, and they're requesting to close Iowa Street on Friday, May the 18th from 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. for their annual event.
Any questions from the council? I'll entertain a motion to honor the street closing request for the Law Enforcement Memorial Day. Okay, and second? All in favor? Okay. All right, we have something here that's not a street closing request. All right, the Martin Starnes audit contract for fiscal year 2017-2018. Madam Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. What you have before you tonight is the annual audit contract presented by Martin Starnes. It would be for fiscal year 2017-2018. The total cost for the audit, which would include the TDA, is going to be $37,350. But I would just remind the board that the TDA will pay $3,000 of that, so it'll be a deduction in that price. So this is just for the annual audit for this year.
Okay. So we need a motion to accept the contract and as presented. Any questions, any discussion? All right, entertain a motion to accept the Martin Starnes audit contract for fiscal year 2017-2018. Okay. Any opposition? Okay. I think I had a
So we do motion and second.
Yeah, we got a motion in a second. Ever how you want to put it.
Well, I thought we had that, but apparently not.
We do.
Okay, we have the motion, and now we have a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. All right, need to set a public hearing for the special use permit for Verbena Development. Mr. Setzer, you're up, sir.
Actually, hey, Kyra, hold those up, please. Just a minute, just keep them there. We need to do it.
I was just showing her the initial drawing. This isn't the detail. If you want to wait.
Yeah, I think we'll wait.
Okay, we'll wait.
We're waiting on...
No, we're not waiting on that.
All right.
Sorry. What this is Workforce Homestead. This is the same developers that built Indigo. Is requesting to have a hearing set for in May for a new development that they're working on Sile Road for another 60-unit development on Sile Road. It would be 55 plus, more of a retirement community. So they are requesting to have a hearing in May.
Let me ask you something, Counselor. Is that not a quasi-judicial hearing?
Yes, sir.
So let me remind the board, the council.
I apologize to Justin and everybody else for my knee-jerk reaction. It is a quasi-judicial matter,
Okay.
so my standard harangue about that means that each of you as council members will have a vote in the manner of a fact finder of a legal right that this applicant is applying for. So that makes you sort of act like a judge and jury in this matter. It means you can't investigate this on your own. You should only have knowledge of it to the extent that's humanly possible that you are given at the hearing. So they're going to come to you and present the reasons they say they meet the standards that are in the ordinance. You'll be required then to sort of judge that against anybody who speaks in opposition, if any cross-examination, any other evidence, things like that. So please don't be out talking with anybody in the community about this particular thing. You tell them the mean old town attorney said you couldn't talk to them, that's okay.
I think now the public pretty well understands our quasi-judicial procedures on matters. Did you have anything else, sir?
No, it's the area is zoned. Zoning shouldn't be an issue for this. It's zoned the same as the Indigo was. We've got been in contact with the developer and getting the final plans drawn. We've already held a neighborhood meeting with all the neighbors. Letters were mailed to them. So just got to see. I don't see any issue with setting this hearing for May.
Okay. Anything else?
Joe?
Yes, Joe. Pardon?
Move, we set the hearing for May.
Okay, is that second? Okay. All right, any discussion?
6:05.
6:05, Bob.
If you keep on, you're not going to get to see a basketball game tonight. All right, all in favor? Okay. The appointment of town tax collector, Madam Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. We have recently had a vacancy within our accounts payable position. And when that vacancy occurred internally with administration, we decided to look at some positions within the town and see how we could consolidate some positions. And with that, we have actually moved our tax collector to our accounts payable position. So that has left a vacancy within the tax collector. And what we're asking for tonight is to make the appointment to tax collector to Sabrina Scruggs until July the 2nd, 2018. That's a yearly appointment, and we normally do our yearly appointments in July. By consolidating these duties, it's a cost savings to the taxpayers of $50,000.
Okay. Any discussion from the board? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move it.
You did, okay. I have a motion. Second? Second. All in favor? All right. Updated rules of procedure. Counselor, you and Madam Manager are just going to mention this.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. At our retreat, we had looked at our rules of procedure. They were last amended in 2009. So myself and the attorney looked at just some wording. Anything that had Town Board of Aldermen was changed to council member. Any wording that had board was changed to council, and then also the meeting time was still at 7 p.m., so it was changed to 6 p.m. So those are the only changes that were made to this.
So those are the three changes that will be to amend the rules of procedure. Any discussion? All right, I'll entertain a motion. Okay, Ms. Myers, thank you. Second, all in favor? Okay. All right, the next item of business is discussion on alcohol at events. I guess myself and the town council can discuss this issue, what you want to do, what you want to discuss about this, and I'll open the floor for discussion from the council.
I'd love to start with
Yes.
Ms. Woodard. I don't know what information you come back with.
Certainly, I'd be glad to, Mr. Kinsey. In your packet, I included, we reached out to several towns in western North Carolina. Those included the town of Sylva, the town of Highlands, the town of Waynesville, the town of Laurel Park, and also the town of Canton. And in your packet, you can see some various policies of what those towns abide by as far as alcohol at events. Mr. Henning, would you like to state anything else?
You can see that there's been any number of different ways to approach that. I thought one that might be a good fit for the town and might consider it is that the town of Canton, their approach has been to say, you know, generally on town streets or sidewalks, this is prohibited. But it says right in their ordinance that a resolution of the town would permit them. So you could take them on a case-by-case basis. That's one thing that has been done. Other modes of doing this are just to designate certain areas that, you know, you're going to approve those in pursuant to a permit that somebody who wants to hold an event can obtain it. So there's any number of different ways to skin the cat. If it's just depending on what the town would like to see.
I've talked this up with a lot of people across the state too, and pretty much what we're doing now seems to be in line with what most towns are doing. You can have alcohol, but it's in designated areas. You cannot leave. There are also state laws about open containers on public roads and byways too, which I don't know whether we want to get into that tonight or not. But all right, yes, sir. You look like you have a comment.
Well, we have a case in point, actually, is now as good a time as any to talk about Stewart Street and the event that Mr. Krapik discussed with JPACA wanting to hold an event. There's some discussion about whether it's town property or not. I think that the town and ALE is trying to say they cannot hold the event because it's a town street.
Yeah, I can speak to it because JPACA had spoke with me about structuring a format in which their event would either be in the vicinity of the Rathskeller, which I'm the owner of, or where I can't rent to them necessarily in the format in which they were doing their event, but I could maybe hire them for entertainment or something. So the issue they ran into with ALE, they sent an agent to speak with us, just kind of help them out a little bit, make sure they didn't fall into any traps with it. But they did consider, from their perspective, Stewart Street a publicly maintained street, thus not allowing you to extend an alcohol permit to it, predominantly based on the fact that we designate it as that, and then we have an ordinance that says as such that we cannot have alcohol on a public street. So that's, I think, what probably sparked the conversation. And I know Dave looked a little bit more extensively at it beyond that than I did. But outside of that, it's about as much information as I know on it. From my business side and personal side, I know you've looked a little bit at the...
Yes, I mean, right now it's dead because the town citing is as their road, and ALE's saying we can't do it because it's a town road, because we have a town ordinance saying that they can't do alcohol on it.
There's no legal way to extend that license.
Right.
So just so the council's clear, nobody came and asked, like, town administration here, is that a public street? It does appear on the Powell bill list.
Yeah.
I think we have, and this coming to light has raised some questions for us to look into about whether or not, was there ever any deed of easement? And in the little bit I've looked back behind what you looked at, David, I haven't done it enough to know for sure, but I don't know whether there's deed of easement or not. That's not a necessary condition of having a public road, because like we were talking about before, if the town went and opened a road across somebody's property, you could theoretically, by adverse possession, inverse condemnation, have a public street there. And it may be that some of the property owners who there consider it permissive. We would need to hash all of that out before saying, yes, no, this is not a public street. I think even then you'd have to take a procedure to close it. Because I think if you just stop maintaining it, you run the risk of any kind of accident or something that happens in there. Now they're going to look to us and say you're not maintaining your public street that's on the Powell bill. And why?
So we'd have to have a motion to close a street that may or may not be ours for this event, and give permission for the owner of the Rathskeller property to have the event.
If I may intervene, administration or the council, to my knowledge, never told anyone they could not have an event there. Yeah. This was a citing by ALE. And one suggestion I would have from administration, since there has been prior events held at this very location, is I don't know necessarily, we do need to look in further detail about the ownership of the road, but by no way do I feel like ownership should hinder this event. As long as this event complies with ALE standards, I don't foresee an issue from management or legal. Mr. Henning?
And there's not a permitting process to let this happen or not right now. I mean, I think, so
that's kind of what we're looking at here.
Somebody interpreted that as a town-maintained road. And I think the reason is it does, it appears on maps like it is. It's on the Powell bill list. I don't think we're in a position, as Summer said, there is no authority the town has to step in and say, you can't have this event there. This has been, as far as I can tell, it's ALE's interpretation of that.
ALE's using our own ordinance of not having alcohol.
Let him finish.
Well, you're right. That's exactly what I was going to say. I think this is ALE's interpretation that this appears to be a public street, and it is a part of the same discussion, because what all of the other towns that Summer, got their take on how they've done this in Canton and Highlands and all over the place, is to say our general rule is no consumption on public streets and sidewalks except here and under these conditions. And our ordinance is just no consumption except, you know, at the place that's rented by the town. So,
go ahead, sir.
So how do we allow this event to happen?
Doesn't that, excuse me, but doesn't that involve basically a discussion on this, the way the other towns go about? I mean, even the one that you mentioned to me was, and I mean, maybe outside of this context, even this conversation, just that they're basically, it's basically a special use application that they're almost going through. It sounds like to me that they're saying you can't do it, but if you want to do it, come ask us, maybe you can do it. That almost is the format in which, that's the, when you're talking about multiple formats in which to approach it. But there's other ways, and you looked at them as well when they sent out, but I don't know. As of right now, though, Dave, yeah, especially that street, as designated as that, there's just no way to extend the license. It wouldn't matter if it was me and my business. It wouldn't matter if it was them and their own event renting the space totally separately. They still couldn't extend it there.
But
and there's really no way we can, as he said, I don't think there's
But the town may not own it. The town,
but we can't, I don't think, address that right here, unfortunately. I think it's a problem.
And just for the sake of explanation, if you were going to take the formal step to close anything that's been maintained as a public street, you know, whether or not you've got a deeded easement or not, or whether it's on Powellville or not, I will tell you that you need to, you know, it requires at least a 30-day notice and a public hearing before you can close it. And I think we'd have to know what exactly we're closing, and if it's the whole, you know, the whole length of it. I would say there's sufficient doubt in it that, let me suggest this, is that I wouldn't mind, and I think maybe town administration can help me reach back out to whoever it is that's made that determination, because again, it's not town administration didn't decide to put the kibosh on the party. That didn't happen. But to reach back out to them and say, we're examining what the nature of the right-of-way through there is. The town administration doesn't consider it to be, there have been other events held on that same property, and we didn't consider it to be a violation of our ordinance.
With alcohol crossing.
We're not asking for enforcement by ALE in that area, and that as long as there's permission from the, you know, the fee owner under that property for that to be there, then as far as the town's concerned, the event can proceed. Is that?
Because I can speak from our business side. We've done these events before. Some of you said that, and I have the ABC extension applications from the one event specifically. I think it was a Taste of Scotland, actually.
Yeah.
And in that, they approved it. So it's a matter of, you know, it's something they never even considered before in the past either. I think it's just something that kind of came up about with this scenario. It's just basically a new finding for them, so it's a new thing. I've never even had to deal with it myself. Because in the past, it's been simple extension application, have the event, move on. It just was different this time. And I think it still lends back ultimately, I think, to the question of, I mean, and maybe we don't want to, maybe we do want to approach. It won't never probably impact that street as long as it stays a street. But for any other events, if somebody wants to utilize what we consider public property, and say the Lazy Hiker wants to have an involvement, or Curry, he wants to have an involvement, do we want to entertain a possibility for them to have that involvement in any of the manners in which Summers kind of went out to research for us? You know, I don't want to get away from that part of the conversation, just go to this, because...
Let me ask you, this is, okay, where some of this is going to be taking place is private property.
Oh, yeah.
And I have spoken with a couple of people on this. There are a couple of other things. One thing that I think is different about this is there is an admission fee.
That is part of it. But in general, it's also that doesn't have anything to do with the street or the extension process.
Right.
That's a totally, them making money is, they only approach them about a totally separate subject, the Japaka independently, but that's not really part of the Stewart Street discussion whatsoever, I don't think. It's, that has entirely to do with, like I said, it wouldn't matter if it was April's Flower wanted to extend the license across there, they can't do it either, even with a one-time use permit or anything, which that's not going to change, because if it's a street, it's a street. but like I said, has a separate conversation just on alcohol more, not less about Stewart Street and that specific event and more just in general, how we want to approach other events. If people are going to utilize something like a park, or they're going to utilize the square, or they're going to be part of picking on the square, or et cetera. Those are the kind of more examples I'm thinking of with this discussion.
I think Canton's model sounds good, where, I mean, that's a step in the right direction, where you can just have a vote on a case-by-case situation to allow alcohol on town property and town roads.
And Mr. Mayor and Council, if I may,
Yes, ma'am.
maybe one suggestion would be to try and look at this at two separate issues. Given that there has been numerous events, to my knowledge, there in the past, and it's never been an issue with the town's end, is to continue, I don't care as long as Mr. Henning to reach out to ALE and state, that there's never been an issue in the past, the town is okay with this, we can further research the deed issue, but maybe on a separate issue is to look at the alcohol as a whole, because I think if you try and rush this tonight, I don't know that you would complete the time frame that would maybe prohibit this event from occurring, because I think it's the end of this month. So I may look at just a recommendation as taking these as two separate items.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm recommending. Because the Stewart Street issue entirely separate can really be dealt with. It doesn't have to be dealt with in here, because we can't change the designation of that street, so it doesn't make any difference. The other alcohol is in general and how we're going to approach it, I think, to not get wrapped up in that conversation. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I think we've actually had good dialogue on the Stewart Street issue and how talked about it, but I just don't think that that's really what this is about. So.
But if it's not our street, we're doing something wrong by stopping somebody's right to use their property.
To an extent, but that's it. We have to approach how we're going to deal with that in the future. You kind of take this as an example. Their event does have a secondary plan to still occur. It's not that we're totally destroying their event. It might be inconvenient, but we as a town are not inconvenient. And I don't think that whatsoever that's coming from.
We're hurting Benny Swafford pretty bad, though, a landowner in the town limits.
And in that, I think that's a discussion that he could probably have with the town personally. We don't have to bring that issue out in the public, I don't think.
We're not going to meet again, though, before this event.
No, I don't think.
I think the most we can do is what John, Council, and some recommend. That's about as far as we can get if we're going to try to make anything happen this month.
Yeah.
And on the discussion of how to draft maybe an ordinance or to look at, I don't think I want to push anything through by any means. I don't know what the best approach is towards looking at drafting the ordinance.
Right, we'll have to bring you back a proposed ordinance that you will consider next month, I suppose, if that's what the council wants. Let me take step by step, though. What I'm getting from the consensus of the council is go ahead and reach out to ALE and express what I just said, that we're not clear, there's some doubt about whether or not it's a public right-of-way. There have been past events there, and we haven't been inconvenienced by it, and aren't opposed to it being on private property there, and so long as there's permission from private property, otherwise legal, they should be permitted to move forward with it.
Yeah. Sorry. Any further comment? We'll move on then. This was for discussion only. We'll move on, and I think that's where we'll keep studying this issue.
One further question.
Yes, sir.
Mayor. Does the council want to see a draft ordinance that's some combination of a method that we think would be a good fit among all the various ones we've found in the area?
I think we should.
I guess I don't understand if are we voting on anything, or
no.
Then you would bring back an ordinance, and then at that time.
Basically, I think at that time we can say we love this, hate this,
we want to change X, Y, Z.
Forget the process entirely because we may decide we don't want.
If we're making changes to the ordinance, do we not have to have a public hearing?
No.
If we're making changes to the ordinance? Okay.
No, because the ordinances that this is dealt with are under your streets and sidewalks authority, not land use. Land use is what requires you to have a public hearing.
I understand.
So, no, you should be able to change that at your will. And the thing is, the default proposition is that ordinance that says no consumption of beer and wine on, which I think while we're at it, we'll say we also mean spirituous liquors right now. I never have understood that. But
And I
we'll look
guess,
at where-
yeah.
where-
I've used that loophole before.
We'll look at where it's going to be permitted
Because,
and how. and what's-
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, last time I was for the discussion to see how other places did, but I'm not so much into, I'll sit here and say I'm a substance abuse advocate, so I don't want to say, oh yeah, I'll go ahead, and I know I can vote on it later, but if people want to drink on their private property, that's fine, but I don't feel, that I'm in a position to even, I mean, more people have came to me and said, I'm not for this happening in our town than people that have came and said, I want it to happen. So I guess I'm just putting that out that if it were me, I would probably stop it right now and say, no, I'm not even wanting to pursue an ordinance.
Understood.
That's the only reason I was kind of putting that on the
Yes,
record.
Mr. Collins.
Yeah, that's a good discussion. So right now, we have no tolerance, and the most you could come back with is either allow it on certain specified festivals in town or on a case-by-case basis. I mean, there's really no other way to approach that, is there?
Let me ask you this, Mr. Collins. What about, the way it, as I understand it right now, is we do allow it, but in designated areas.
I think it's private property.
Private property that's
Which means
designated.
it's not
yeah.
that we allow it, it's just we can't prohibit it.
But
That's
we
the
can
difference.
put limits on them coming out into the street.
Private property.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not us allowing it, it's us just not being able to prohibit it.
Well, we've always put signs out, no alcohol beyond this point, and we've had excellent working with the private property owners. They realize the value of it too, and they've been very cooperative.
That's true, and I do think we have worked through that well, but I think, and Mr. Collins' point is that, we do have zero tolerance past that property line. When they come out on the public way, they're violating the ordinance. So the question is, do you let them come out on the public way, and what streets and when, and under what permits first, and all that kind of thing. So that's what, and I totally understand, but I'll, get the majority consensus is bring us an ordinance.
I just would recommend that if you're going to come back with something, if that's what the board wants to, I got a feeling case by case is going to be a whole lot closer to something than a blanket yes. And just forecast.
Mr. Collins and I have been on this board a long time, and I've never known this really to be an issue. Has it? I don't think so. I remember it was a little bit of an issue about the alcohol vote, but that's been it. There's been no real issue until this particular event came up. So I don't know. I'm good with whatever the board wants council and the manager to do, and come back to the board.
We'll bring it back.
Okay. Anything else? All right. The next item is a discussion on town board reappointments. Madam Manager and Counselor, you're up.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, we just kind of wanted to give you guys, the board, an update on what we've found so far, and maybe just allow us to continue to explore these options. One thing the board has spoken about in the past couple months is how do we tackle reappointments. And one thing that Mr. Henning and I noticed after digging into this a little bit further is it may not be as simple as just saying that the town's policy is going to be to advertise all appointments, because that would affect the bylaws of both the TDA and the planning board. The one bylaws that we still need to get are the ABC boards bylaws.
And I continue to, I don't have any bright line legal rule to tell you, you can't do that. You can't require every reappointment to come with an application to the board. But I remain concerned that it'll be the wrong message if it's every single kind of board that's appointed through the town council. These are now your marching orders, and every time you're going to have to reapply. Unless we have felt that out with the planning board and TDA, it is just like pulling teeth to get those boards full as it is. And we've got both of them, I think, in a really good place at the moment where we've got them pretty fully represented. I would want to really cushion anything that we're going to change by having had a discussion with them first. And And so I think if nothing else, it would be good for us to have a discussion with them over the next month and say, hey, folks, if you were going to have to reapply to stay on this board, would that affect your decision as to whether or not you wanted to continue to be on this board? And that to me makes a big difference in what I would advise you all to do with it. So I know this has been on the docket for a while now, but just another month's patience would be appreciated.
And, well, we would need to get the other bylaws so that we would know how all of them together. They're all equal.
Yeah. And just being a devil's advocate, you may have a historic lack of enthusiasm because people feel like they can't get there. It's kind of a ceiling that...
Well, and that may well have been why it was difficult. I'm just saying right now we got full boats in a couple of them, and I want to, there's not a whole lot of thanks in a lot of those jobs, and I just want to be cautious.
We're going to discuss this with all three of the boards. Okay. Any discussion, any opposition to doing that? Okay. All right, we'll move on then. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, certainly.
Can we just take a 5-minute recess?
Certainly you may. Yes, sir, make a motion.
Can I make a motion to take a 5-minute?
Don't need a motion for that, take it. 5 minutes, guy.
Hey, Dan, we start at 6 now.
All right, we're back in session. Y'all quit arguing, we're back in session. So, all right, discussion on quarter-cent sales tax increase. And it says Mayor Bob Scott will present this item. Mayor Bob Scott knows very little about this item, but it has been discussed at the league and different places, and so I'll turn it over to our manager to give us the high points on it.
Sure, Mr. Mayor and Council, and I think Mr. Henning can talk about what it will look like at a county level, but as far as the town's concerned, if the town was interested in pursuing a quarter-cent sales tax increase, after consulting with the finance officer, we currently generate around $640,000 annually that we receive from the state, and that would only generate you right at around $2,000. As far as what Macon County's pursuing and how that would affect the town, I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Henning and let him give a little bit of history on that.
So local option sales taxes are referred to by the articles in Chapter 105 that they're in. There's 5 of them. There's Article 39, 40, 42, 43, and 46. You already have, and all of them have to be adopted by the county. I think all of them are after they may not all require a referendum vote first, but most of them do. The first 3, 39, 40, and 42 that are already in place, you already share, and municipalities that are located within a county that has elected those local options gets their share. The way it works is that a merchant collects that portion of taxes whenever they make a sale. They remit to North Carolina Department of Revenue. The Department of Revenue cuts that back to the town and the towns, municipalities or whatever, and the county that it's coming from. The other 2 local sales taxes that are out there, 43 is only for transportation authorities, which if you had one and the county elected that tax, you could share in that. And the other is designated for schools, and that's the one I understand, Article 46, that's being looked at. So that one the municipalities don't share in. And that's in the statute.
Let me ask you, is this something that the board's interested in pursuing for $2,000?
I don't even think there's anything to pursue, because the ones that you can get any share of, you've already got what you can get out of it. Well, I don't think there's any more available.
From a municipal standpoint, I thought we could go for the quarter-cent.
I don't think so. Now, I'd be happy to look further into it, but my understanding is those are the only local option sales taxes that are even available, and I don't know that
and you may be right. I just remember the league has discussed municipalities going whether they want to or not, and the manner in which they go about it.
Okay. Well, I'm
I don't know.
going to look into that, and let's do that, Mr. Mayor. Let's look at that between now and the next board meeting. I don't think that...
I'm just wondering if the public outcry
Yeah, I don't
would
think.
be worth the 2,000, Ms. Collins.
Yeah, I'm pretty good math, man. I'm trying to figure out, what is the tax now? How much is it?
6.75.
Okay, I mean, and we get how many hundreds of thousands?
640.
And it's got to be more than 2,000 or 4,000, but if it's de minimis like that is, let's don't.
The only advantage, it would bring it up to an even 7%, and a lot of people would be happy not to have to multiply by 6.75.
Let's let council look at it to see if it's even a...
Yeah, let's see. Let's look at the figures and see what we got. Okay, let's move on to Hillcrest Avenue. Mr. Stutz, I think you got a couple of photographs about something that's been a long time in coming.
Just bear with me just for a minute while I get to
technology.
But while you're getting to that, let me just, did we not just kind of settle the read to me that we were going to move on that? We don't need to go back to this, do we? The read to me.
I thought we were going to vote on allowing it or disallowing
Yes, it's certainly up to the board if you want to
Okay,
make a
we'll go back to it then in a minute, okay.
Okay, so today, this is last month going through, let's just going to go through some as a slideshow. These photos that Mayor was out this morning right before they started the work on Hillcrest Avenue. Been working on this for, I feel like since I've been here.
Forever.
But the last month we accepted bids and it went out and we hired a company and they started work this morning. They actually started a little bit Friday. Here's some of the pictures of what it looked like right this morning at 8 o'clock before they really got going. Some of these we've seen before, but the contractor the Shields told me, talking to her this evening that all the trash, pretty much all the trash around the house is gone, and cars are gone, and the garage is gone. Right?
One car's still there.
One car, probably the van.
The garage is down, but not all off.
Yes. So we was always curious what was in the garage. I never was able to get in the garage. I couldn't even get to it. There was so much stuff in front of it, and it was just full of bags of trash and black bags, and I mean, so it was just as bad as what you would figure. But yeah, it's just. It was just a long time coming. I know the neighborhood's happy. They were all out there eager this morning to watch it get started. There's been, I know a couple of neighbors out there have been trying to sell their houses for a time now and hadn't been able to. People have had people back out of buying their homes because of this. Hey, I don't want to be near that. And so this is going to be good for the neighborhood. And so real uplift. And that's the last picture I took before I left this morning before I had to get up here.
When the nonprofit funding request comes from the Fairleigh Cat Rescue, this will be one.
Tomorrow, the house is still there, but tomorrow they're supposed to start on the house.
Right. Good. And you know, I hate to say it, but we've got several other places as bad or equally as bad. And I think one of the problems that we're seeing, we've had a lot of people retire and come to the area. They die, the children live somewhere else, and the property basically becomes abandoned. I think this is true in a lot of areas that have had a lot of retirement communities. So, but Mr. Stutz, I want to commend you, and I think the board does too, Mr. Henning and the manager, for what y'all have been very diligent on this. I know the public didn't understand it, but these lawyers, you know, they have all these hoops we have to jump through. So, and thank you guys for what you've done. That's going to be a huge improvement to a large neighborhood. Anybody from the board want to say anything about it?
Just congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you for
It
staying
has
with
been
it.
a nightmare. Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to the read to me. Where do we stand on that now? Do we need to have a vote that we will allow this at the community park?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Board, after, like I said, we've not officially been able to meet with Ms. Cotton yet, but after going down there and surveying the property, there should be ample room to place this.
And we'll work with them about the placement? Yes, okay.
So we want to...
Is that okay?
Okay. We got to get a report from the park committee. I'll report it. I'll approve it.
Well, that's true. That's right.
That's right.
And you're working on a major... You're
make the motion. I'm nothing else, but I'm the park committee now.
I will honor your motion, yeah. You're working on a major thing down there, too. Yeah. Okay, you want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
There's a second.
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, that carries. We have a discussion of the Carfax for the police program agreement.
Yes,
Counselor?
Mr. Mayor, I have reviewed this agreement. I had a couple of small items that I'd like to see if they'll address for us. They're pretty technical in nature. One that, I don't know if anybody else reviewed it, but it's got this Commonwealth of Virginia is the governing law for this, and we usually won't accept an agreement that isn't in North Carolina. In fact, I think there's a statute that says we can't. So there's a few technical things like that that I just want to review with Carfax and see if they will change for us. Usually these big contracting companies are willing to do that kind of thing. But I would ask for the approval if the board's willing to, the council willing to give it, to be contingent on legal review for technical changes.
I think we need to explain what it is.
So what it is it's a tool for, and someone can probably speak to this better than I can, but it's a tool that the police department would use to identify vehicles that are left that have been in accidents, and there also, it's a two-way street where we report whatever is reportable. Generally, I looked into this today, accident reports are mostly public record. There's a few things I want to make sure our folks, I don't think they collect the social security number on them, and there's a few things you can't report that are not public record, but I think this is the way Carfax builds their database, and so they get out of it that our folks, our police, they get reports of accidents that they generate. They're going to share them with them, and in exchange, if they find, say, a junk vehicle, they can go to Carfax and find out what they know about. That's pretty much it.
And if the vehicle's ever been wrecked.
Yes.
I have used Carfax. Have any of you ever used it? Yeah, it's, but the thing of it is, we charge whoever comes in to get an accident report now, don't we, Sergeant Nash? We don't charge them.
We don't charge, it goes straight to the state.
But, so basically there would be, they're just helping us recoup our time, is that right?
Well, no, there is an upside to this in that we pay for any reports that we need. You know, we say, well, what's this car with this VIN number? What's this mean? But the upside of it is if a report gets, or an accident gets reported to RPD, they make a report, they send it to Carfax. If that vehicle's ever searched through Carfax, they reimburse the town for the
It's like a $5. And it can be up to $5. And Chief Adams, I apologize, he's on vacation this week, but him and I had discussed it, and he had looked back at some of his records, and from his calculations, it could stand to gain the town around $2,500 a year.
Oh, wow. Okay, any further questions, comments on this Carfax deal? All right, if not, I'll call for a motion that we allow council and the police chief to proceed, barring you find something legal that is a hindrance on it.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion? Okay. Mr. McKenzie, you make the motion and you second. All right, all in favor. Okay. And forward the Unified Development Ordinance regarding utilities to the Town Planning Board. Counselor?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is actually came about, we had a little bit of discussion about it last month as a result of the small cell wireless changes. Essentially, and this has always been true of wireless regulation, we're not permitted to discriminate as against wireless providers. And it makes sense if they want to say, well, if you're going to make us bury all of our utilities, you have to require that of every other kind of utility, or you're discriminating against us, and that's been made against the law. It's to discriminate against wireless carrier providers. So as an outgrowth of that, it got us examining where and under what circumstances we do require undergrounding of utilities, and it's not really in our UDO right now. What I want to do then, and I don't even have a draft ordinance for you because we need to be a little careful with this. It's going to require us to determine where it needs to go, come back to this board before you set a public hearing, and I want to be crystal clear when it comes back where exactly we're going to require to go, so that we never get down the road and have anybody claiming, well, you didn't give me adequate notice that I was going to have to start doing this on my property. So that's the reason for a little bit of caution. I also do have an update for the council. We had talked some about whether or not, you require power transmission lines in particular to be put underground. And while I'm telling you we need to require all utilities in places that we think we want to see utilities buried to follow that requirement, the law on electric transmission in particular is a little looser than that. Essentially, an energy company, they apply to the Utilities Commission for the place they want to locate lines. The Utilities Commission is supposed to reach out to whatever municipality that's going through and says, there's an application that says if you have local ordinances that would affect where this goes, tell us what they are. But the final decision about whether or not they have to abide by it is the Utilities Commission's to make. So, by the time it gets to them, and I don't think it's a terrible surprise, most of the people on the Utilities Commission used to work for utility companies. It's kind of one of those revolving door type things. There's not a whole lot of teeth to our ability to make power in particular go in any particular direction. So, but that being said, I still think there are several reasons, not least of which is, again, to guard all the work that's been done in the Main Street area to get power lines and everything else that was above ground, underground. So that being said, I'm happy to answer any other questions, but for now this would just be to forward the matter to the planning board.
Okay. All right. There's a motion that we forward this to the planning board as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Is there a second? All right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Moving on for one more item here. Lease agreement for the gazebo.
Yes, sir.
Madam Manager and Counselor.
Sure. Mr. Mayor and Council, myself and Mr. Henning met with County Manager Derek Rowland and County Attorney Chester Jones, I believe a week ago today. And Mr. Henning had drafted a proposed agreement for the gazebo area, which is currently owned by the county. The original lease that the town had with the county was set to expire, I believe it's May the 8th of 2018, so it'd be next month. So with that, I'm going to just turn over to Mr. Henning and kind of let him, since you have it in your packet, kind of hit the highlights of what was discussed at that meeting.
I think it was approved May 8th of 1998, and it expires, actually they gave it to the end of May 30th of 2018. So we're finally there, at summer, and I said to her the other day after we met with the county, and they were very receptive to just more or less re-upping the lease arrangement we've had there. That I don't know what we're going to talk about now. I mean, for 10 years we've been looking at each other going, at least we got to fix it, it's coming soon, and it finally did. So this basically does carry through. I've asked, the biggest change really is that I'm on your behalf, I'm asking the county to consider a 30-year lease and a little bit more notice if there ever was going to be an end to it. The lease as it existed gave either party I think it was just 30 days notice to end the lease. There are also several places in here where we just make some reference to the ability of the county and town to cooperate on some improvements to that property, because as they have recognized, it may become necessary to, if we're going to provide any kind of public restroom facilities, that property may end up needing to be used for that. So for that reason, I think a longer term and a little bit more notice of any intent to quit that the lease would be, appreciated. And we'd work out with the county if there is going to be shared responsibility for installation of any kind of facilities there. We do that with a separate agreement. Happy to answer any questions you have about this, but if it's meets with the council's approval, I would just again ask for approval subject to the further legal and technical changes. The county has yet to pass on this. And we'll have
But is it on their agenda for tonight, do you know? Aren't they meeting tonight?
No.
Oh, they don't meet tonight?
I think they meet on a Tuesday.
Next Tuesday night, okay. Ms. Collins, you got anything on that? All right.
Well, I mean, I think that subject to the county approving it as well, that the town certainly should accept a 30-year lease with, as John has crafted.
Okay, now when the lease is up, I'll be 107 years old, so y'all gonna have to handle it. So I'll entertain the motion that we go ahead and have the town attorney and manager go ahead with this contract.
It sounded like a motion that Joe just made.
Well, I think so, yeah.
It is, yeah.
I'll
And I'm
second.
entertaining it, yeah. All right, any further discussion? Yes, sir.
I'm voting on it.
Oh, you're voting, okay. All right, all in favor? All right. The next is the Town Council Budget Work Session will be Monday, April the 16th.
Anybody besides me not going to be here?
Need to change it?
No, I mean, it's not just me. If I'm the only one, I've got a legal conference, but I was just wondering if by chance anybody else also has it.
Well, we'll be, I don't know if anybody else does.
I'm not
or
asking to change it. Just for
Sure.
As long as I can bring my taxes and be working on them during the meeting, I'm fine with it.
You bring them on, yes, sir. That is it's a Monday night, yeah, and it's the day before your taxes, yes. I see your point now. Okay, we'll go ahead there and then just schedule that meeting, Madam Manager. And I wanted to take just one moment to mention a group that is 50 years old this year, and that's the Nantahala Hiking Club. And 50 years, and these volunteers that keep 60 miles of the Appalachian Trail open that go through Macon County, and we're wanting to try to do something. I'm working with some of the AT people to have the town honor this 50 years, because this is a real part of Franklin, and they do such a magnificent job. Anybody got any comment or something? I just wanted to make that as a matter of something.
I'll say, I know right now too, they're raising funds to rebuild the Tassie shelter. So you can probably find that on social media or contact them directly.
And they just hauled a new privy in by horse, I understand. Is it going in? It's up in the wilderness area. I think it's up around Carter Creek. But they've used helicopters, horses, and just plain old people, and they do this themselves. Yeah. It's wonderful. Okay, let's go around the table. Mr. Kimsey, got anything, sir?
That's it.
Mr. McMahon?
No, sir.
Mr. McRae?
Well, I wish, or I hope that we can do something for the Curtis Street people. I'm really just, it's really very distressing.
To give you an update, and these things take time, but you have it right in front of you.
I know.
We do get there eventually.
Yeah.
I'm in the process.
But at least there weren't drug dealing going on in this house.
I'm in the process of drafting a complaint, because they have been in violation of any number of town ordinances. Justin has been diligent in...
Yeah, I know you have. I mean, I know how hard it is. It's just...
We're trying. It's a tough nut to crack. In some ways, it's a little tougher than minimum housing, because they're in violation of all kinds of ordinances, but our standard of proving that is going to be more difficult, because I also don't know exactly who it is,
Yeah.
I think we've got an owner, and they're not permitted to let a violation of our ordinances go on the property, but then who is actually doing it, I don't know who all we can catch, but we're in the process of doing what we can civilly to try to proceed.
She had mentioned that they were partying all night. Has she called in with a noise ordinance complaint?
I'm not aware of it.
I
Okay.
I don't know, but the sense I've gotten from that is that there have been allegations made that there's drug dealing going on, and of course, our police are pretty good, and so is the sheriff's office about pursuing drug deals that they have any evidence to proceed on. And then it sounds like they...
You just get right back out.
Yeah, or they kind of thrown up their hands and said, well, I'm not calling anybody because I'm not getting what I conceive to be satisfactory, so.
And there have been arrests made from that property, just from the board's knowledge.
Yeah, it's, okay. Ms. Mashburn?
No, nothing.
Ms. Culpepper?
Yes, I want to, now that we have a lease agreement in place, if it's of the town board's approval, I'd like to paint a life-size chessboard on the top of the square where it used to be a fountain that's concrete right now. And I'd like to look into buying 3-foot tall chess pieces and let kids and adults go out on the square and play chess, life-size style.
As a former high school student, I can tell you those would be stolen immediately.
Well, that's, as a former, yeah, I agree with you. Well, they couldn't be left out all the time, so that leads to storage. Where could we put them?
Right, put out just during festivals or something like, well, no, because then we'd be using it as a...
I don't know.
Some of us remember the soap suds in the fountain too, don't we? Yes. All right, let's think about that. And you talk.
It's about $800 for a set, but I think we could probably raise the money to get the set.
Keep talking about it and go up there and see how big that chessboard would have to be. Have you measured it? No, I mean really.
I've theorized about it. I think we need about 16 feet by 16 feet.
Get your tape measure and go up there and come back with the measurements and if it can be done.
Thank you, Bob.
Nathaniel has a tape measure. I know he does. So you don't
At all times.
It's permanently welded to him. Okay, Ms. Collins, sir.
On the potential use of the old drive-in theater property that I brought up at her, I believe you all discussed it in general terms when you had your meeting.
We did.
I've discussed it myself in general terms, and so far I've gotten positive feedback. Obviously, we haven't, not in a position to make an offer, so it can't be much more than that, but I've not seen any roadblocks yet.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we did bring that up and found, at least the county manager and attorney to be very receptive to that idea. I don't think they have real immediate uses in mind for that property on the scale of a few years. And if what you have in mind is not an expense that you would mind to part with over just a few years, if it came to that, I think they might be interested in it. And I do think we can make some good use of that property.
You think they'd be willing to make a pretty good deal for us? You think?
I think it'd be a deal like the gazebo or something.
Right.
And that's what we brought up, and they said, yeah, something just like this might work fine with the county.
And this would tie into the Greenway extension there.
Just fits the town.
Mr. McMahon?
I
Yes, sir.
apologize, sir. I know you already asked me once.
No. Bring it on.
I just want to ask the board, just in general, just in talking to people around town, what kind of feedback you guys are hearing about the parking?
I will go first. I'm hearing positive.
I want to tell you, everything I hear in person is positive. All the negative I see is on social media. And I was telling somebody earlier, I think that just speaks to the nature of social media. But everything that I'm hearing in person, including from Main Street business owners, has been positive.
I heard one today. Yeah, Ms. McCray, have you heard things?
Only good.
Everybody else?
I've heard a few negative, but mostly things that I think could be ironed out. Some of which actually are probably parking violations. That if the business owners understand that, police can communicate to those drivers. I think that would be a really big issue. It's people kind of double parking or utilizing trailers have been the only real complaints I've heard.
Speed is the complaint I've heard. People love the parallel parking, but people are going too fast.
Yeah.
Oh, now it's opened up, they spin up.
Yes.
Well, actually, I've noticed that as well. Yeah.
I will say that the stand butt-outs, where I know eventually would probably be more substantial butt-outs there for pedestrian walkers, are fantastic.
Yes, I love it.
I walk a lot, and it's just nice to have even the illusion of a barrier between you and somebody hitting you with a car.
Yeah. So. Okay. All right. No further business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
There you go.
I move we adjourn.
Okay. And you second?
Yes.
All right. Any discussion? All right. All in favor? We stand adjourned.
I knew I could count on you for a second.